Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. We got a bunch of things on the agenda, and a couple of our members have to leave at 10. So we're going to start right now and try to be timely and cognizant of everybody's schedule. So why don't we do what we always do and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mayor Trotter will lead us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First, let's go around the table and on the Zoom so we could have the council members introduce themselves and so I could recognize a quorum so we could begin business. So Kevin Law, Chair.
Frank Trotta.
Brenda Anderson. Nisha Loga.
Christopher Hahn.
Alexander Carlutzis.
Dick McCormick, Interim President.
And on the Zoom, council members.
Linda Arman.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Andrea Goldsmith, President-elect.
Hi, Andrea. And is Karen there?
Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Hi, Karen. And Rachel Errol is coming, right?
Yes.
Got it. And did we hear from Michael Smith?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. Well, we certainly have a quorum, so I'll recognize a quorum. Before we get to the agenda, we'll go around the room and have the Dick's senior staff introduce themselves. So,
Good morning, everyone. Carl Ledgway, Provost.
Jed Shiver, Senior VP, Finance and Administration.
Braden Hosh, Interim Chief Deputy to the President and Vice President for Educational and Institutional Effectiveness.
Good morning, Rick Canto, VP Student Affairs.
Good morning, Larry Zachary, Vice President, Enterprise 9.
Good morning, Judy Brown Clark, Vice President of Equity and Inclusion, Chief Health Equity Officer.
Hello, Whitney Pearson, Vice President for Strategic Initiatives and Executive Director, Student Oversight.
Bill Herman, Vice President for Facilities and Services.
Simeon Anand, Vice President for Information Technology, Chief Information Officer.
Good morning, Susan Foley, Interim Vice President, Marketing and Communications.
right, Scott.
Good morning, Scott Barrett, Interim Vice President for University Advancement.
Good morning, Jennifer Donnelly, Interim Vice President, Human Resources.
Good morning, Jackie Weisman, Interim Chief Defense Counsel.
Good morning, Fred Skanger, Executive Director of your Long Island State Veterans Home.
Good morning, Louise Melius, President of UUP West Chapter.
Good morning, Bruce Kuby, President, UUP Health Science Center Chapter.
Carl Mills, Associate Vice President, Government Relations.
Adam Furman, Director of Student Conduct and Community Standards.
Christopher Lawrence, Associate Vice President, Campus Planning, Design, and Construction.
Good morning, Catherine Mary Rivera, Assistant Vice President for Campus Residences within Student Affairs.
Sean Hilbrand, Director of Athletics.
Rachel Kavanaugh, Executive Assistant to the Chief Deputy to the President and the President.
Leah Donaev, probably last and least. Publisher of the Times-Speaking Record newspapers and local papers, with the privilege of covering Stony Brook University.
Leah, we're always happy to have you, and I'll remind everybody that we're also being webcasted, so we're live and streaming. Thank you all, and Dick, thank you for having the whole team here with us. So why don't we do the first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on February 10th, 2015. I will move them. Father Alex seconds them. Are there any comments, revisions, or additions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The minutes are approved. My chair's report is going to be very brief because I want to make an introduction. First, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. Whether you celebrated this weekend or today, enjoy. Congratulations to the women's lacrosse team for winning another championship. Sean, we'll get more details from you as well on that when you make a presentation. So I read about that. Great to see it. And I want to now introduce our soon-to-be new president. Dr. Andrea Goldsmith is with us. She will be starting on or about August 1st of this year. And I invited her to our council meeting because while she got to meet Linda and Chris and Errol during the search process, she didn't get to meet all of you. And so I wanted to, and then Andrea got to meet a lot of the senior staff because she's been transitioning since she got approved by the SUNY Board of Trustees. And if you haven't already heard a little bit about her, Andrea is currently the Dean of the School of Engineering at Princeton, and formerly she was a professor of engineering at Stanford University. She's a product of higher public universities over at UC Berkeley. And she's been spending a lot of time transitioning already. So I wanted to give Andrea a few minutes to say hello, introduce herself, and to welcome her. So Andrea, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kevin, for that very kind introduction. And thanks to all of you for your support, especially the council members that were on the search committee. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining Stony Brook as the 7th president. I want to thank Kevin not just for that kind introduction, but really for your leadership throughout this time of transition, and also for your support and knowledge and wisdom that you've really helped convey to me as I ramp up the tremendous job of taking over Stony Brook as its next president. I'm really beyond excited and also extremely grateful for the opportunity to join this exceptional university and to lead it. It's an honor to be with all of you, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today as part of my journey of learning everything I can about Stony Brook so that I can really hit the ground running. And I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person today. I look forward to being in person at all future meetings, but for today, I have some things at Princeton that also require my attention, so I'm sorry that I couldn't join you. I'm also really looking forward to partnering with all of you. I think the structure of Stony Brook and having this council as a source of wisdom and knowledge and decision making is extremely valuable to me. And so I hope over the next months and certainly years of my presidency that I will learn from all of you about your experience with Stony Brook, and tap your wisdom and knowledge about how I can lead it effectively, and also find out your aspirations for the future of Stony Brook and how we can achieve them. So really, I view this group as a significant partner for me and for all of the leadership at Stony Brook to craft a really compelling vision for the future and then execute it. I had my first visit to Stony Brook in March. This was a few weeks after the announcement, and I was truly amazed at the incredible warm welcome that I received. I met with some of the Stony Brook leaders, some of my executive team. Most rewarding, I would say, was attending the Senate meeting of faculty and staff, and even more so, the students. I think that all of us that work in higher education are inspired by the young people. That's what gets us up every day going to work. And I was really amazed in my discussions with students of Stony Brook how much they appreciate the opportunity for the education that they're getting, and also how they view it as this incredibly supportive community. They view it as their home. Stony Brook will be my 5th university. As Kevin mentioned, I did all my degrees at UC Berkeley, and I'm also a complete product of public schools from K through 12. So I'm a huge believer in the public education mission, and that's one of the motivations to come back to Stony Brook. But the students that I met with at Stony Brook are among the most special that I've experienced in all my universities because of their gratitude and because of their motivation and because of their aspirations, which we can help them achieve. So that was really, perhaps over the last 6 months of this whole process, the most exciting and rewarding thing that I've done as Stony Brook's president-elect. I want to let you know that over the last few months, the announcement was mid-February, I've spent a significant amount of time with the Stony Brook leaders, the faculty and staff, the Stony Brook Foundation Board, the New York Climate Exchange Board, Chancellor King, as well as other SUNY leaders, because I really want to hit the ground running in August. so that I have as much knowledge and things in place as I can so that we can just keep the incredible momentum for Stony Brook going through the fall and beyond that. What I found in these discussions, and by the way, I've also met with many of our key donors and supporters and friends and partners. So it's been a bit of a fire hose of learning, but what I take away from all these discussions is really what excited me about the role in the first place in my very first interview, that there is so much tremendous opportunity for advancing Stony Brook's excellence across all dimensions of research and education, innovation, service to the local community of Long Island, the state, the country, and the world. I know that that's a very high level aspiration. What I hope to do over the next few months and in the first 100 days of my presidency is to define much more concretely what that looks like. What are the most important areas of focus for us over my first 100 days and my first year? Where is it that we can have the most impact in the short term to get us on a path to achieve our even higher long-term aspirations? I want to thank Kevin and the entire presidential transition team, which he is leading. I believe this is the first ever president transition team. It's something that was put in place that I get to benefit as the first president experiencing it. And I found it tremendously valuable as a source of knowledge and wisdom and experience. So this group has given me quite a bit of thoughtful guidance in terms of key decisions that need to be made even before I take on the president's role in my first 100 days as president and then beyond that. So I'm very happy that a president transition team was put in place, and I highly recommend it be put in place for future presidents, but that's hopefully very, very long in the future because I hope to be president of this great university for quite a long time. The other thing that I want to say in terms of my ramping up as the next president is that obviously it's a very challenging time for university presidents, but there's also never been a more important time to really strongly articulate the value of higher education for societal benefit and upward mobility. I hope that I can play a role in doing that, not only for Stony Brook, but for the country. And even though there are significant challenges in terms of funding and student issues associated with the current state of the government, I'm an optimist at heart, and I believe that we can overcome all of these challenges and continue to focus on our North Star, which is, again, excellence in education of our undergraduates, our graduate students, and advancing knowledge to benefit the country and the world. So Stony Brook is a very special university in terms of being able to create opportunities for upward mobility. That's another thing that made me incredibly proud to join this university. It's the, I think, ranked second in terms of upward mobility of its students. We need to continue that ability to provide for all of our students an education that will launch them into very successful careers and lives as citizens of the world. And we also want to do that for more students. So that's one of the challenges that we have. How do we ensure that we can create the educational opportunities for all of the great students in this state of New York? We are New York State's #1 public university, and that's something that I'm very proud of as Stony Brook's next president, and also look forward to shaping what that means. What does it mean for Stony Brook to be a flagship university? What does it mean to be New York's #1 public university? And how can we make Stony Brook one of the best public universities in the country? As I said throughout the interview process, there is absolutely no reason why Stony Brook cannot be as good as any university in the country, public or private. There is a lot of disruption in higher education right now. And as an entrepreneur, I believe that times of disruption are when the greatest organizations can seize opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. that is our opportunity at Stony Brook today. So I'm very much looking forward to getting to know all of you and again, tapping your wisdom and knowledge and experience. I view our journey to take Stony Brook to become one of the best universities in the country to be a joint endeavor, and all of you are my partners. So I want to thank you for your trust and your partnership, for welcoming me today. And I'm looking forward to the agenda, particularly hearing about the state budget, which I know is a crucial element of Stony Brook's aspirations, as well as our housing, which is needed to increase the number of students that we can educate here, and also athletics, which is I'm super excited about winning yet another championship for Stony Brook, and I hope there's many more in our future. So let me pause here and see if there are any questions for me from members of the council.
Well, first of all, I think Andrea's presentation deserves a round of applause. Andrea, as I said, you've met Karen and Linda and Errol and Chris and myself, but can I just have Father Alex and Frank just introduce yourselves to Andrea? You just say a little bit about yourself.
Welcome. Your enthusiasm has just come right across to us. You know, we were enthusiastic walking into the room, but to listen to you today is inspiring, and we're excited to have you. So welcome aboard.
Great.
Thank you so much. In person, I'd be even more exuberant. I probably be jumping out of my chair, so just imagine that.
We'll try to do the same.
I'm Father Alexander Karlitzis. I'm the Greek Orthodox priest in Southampton, and I work in the Archdiocese of New York City in fundraising and a few other things, but we're really honored and we look forward to working with you, and welcome aboard, and we're ready to follow you to the best and the greatest for our university. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. All right, anything else? No? Andrea, again, thank you. Oh, Nista, can you introduce yourself? And is this your last meeting?
Yeah.
Is this? Oh, you're a grad student.
I am graduating. Yeah.
What do you got? You got plans for after?
Yeah, I'll be attending the med school.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So you'll benefit from the new president. So introduce yourself, please.
Hi, nice to see you again. So I'm Isha, I'm the student government president this year. And yeah, like I said, this is the end of my term, but everyone else at student government is really excited to work with you, and we share your ambition in trying to make Stony Brook the best place that it can be.
Great. All right, well, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much, Andrea. So we're going to now continue with the agenda because I know two of our members are pressed for time. So we're going to get right to the president's report. And before Dick starts, I just want to acknowledge that this will be, like Nista's, Dick's last meeting with the council. And since day one, when I met Dick virtually, and then when I met him in person, really one of the nicest gentlemen I have ever come across in my professional career. And he's done a terrific job, making the trains run on time and keeping the trains running through a lot of turbulence in the world and through the academic world. And so, Dick, want to thank you. He's also been terrific transitioning with Andrea, and he really has done a terrific job. And we will have the benefit of Dick being around for a few more months, and so we're excited about that. But Dick, just really want to thank you for everything you've done for us for the past year. So let's give Dick a round.
I forgot to mention Dick, and that was a huge omission, and I want to say now how much I've enjoyed working with him, how incredibly helpful and supportive he's been, an amazing partner. I'm sorry, Dick, for not saying that in my opening remarks. They were there and I just flew through them. Unfortunately, I missed it. But thank you from me for being an incredible leader this past year at Stony Brook, for leaving it in such great shape for me, and also for your partnership in the transition.
Great.
Thank you, Andrea, for those kind words, and Kevin, thank you. You and the council have been in my corner for the year, and I'm really proud of that relationship. It is my last meeting with the council, and I'll have a few words few final reflections toward the end of my remarks today. It's a daunting challenge, but also an honor to follow Andrea Goldsmith. She is a remarkably perfect leader for Stony Brook, and I have indeed gotten to know her quite well. I'll be heading down to New Jersey next Monday, and we're going to have a long dinner together to continue the conversations that we've begun already. In addition to all of the things that you found on her resume, which led to her appointment, all the academic distinctions, all the achievements, all the startup companies based on her own research that she has founded, I have found Andrea to be an extremely talented academic leader. She's already taken a deep dive into several issues at Stony Brook, including some with some challenges associated with them. I've seen her at work. I've seen her focus on things, and I know she will be a brilliant president. She is also something that is really important for Stony Brook, as you've observed this morning. Andrea Goldsmith is a very nice person. I don't mean that in any banal sense at all. What I mean is that she'll fit in our Stony Brook culture, a culture where people have each other's backs and are not at each other's throats. So, Andrea, I join everyone in welcoming you to the presidency of Stony Brook University. I want to begin with another piece of good news. It's been a remarkably peaceful year at Stony Brook, considering what we went through last year. We were well prepared for more difficulties. I'm proud that we were well prepared. I'm also proud and pleased that there was little call for us to exercise the precautions that we had put in place. The year's not over yet, I know, but May 1st has passed, the anniversary of the arrests last year, and May 1st, the International Day of Protests, is now in the rearview mirror, and I am cautiously optimistic that the peaceableness will continue. Men and women at Stony Brook have expressed their political views, which they have every right to do. They haven't tamped that down, but what they've done is obey the rules, and for that we can all be extremely grateful. Andrea mentioned her interest in the state budget, and I'll give you an update. I cannot tell you as much as you want to know because they haven't finished yet. It's now more than a month past April 1st, when the budget was supposed to be completed. This is the time when in New York State, it's 3 men in a room, except 2 of the 3 men are women in this case, the governor and the Senate Majority Leader, and they're still in that room working out the final details. We do know that the operating budget will be pretty good. It'll include the previously negotiated raises for all of our faculty and staff. It will include as well an extra addition in lieu of a tuition increase. That's something that we've had for the past 2 years, and we're going to have it for a third. And I've been told on good authority that is, in effect, part of the base budget going forward. So that's good news for Andrea and all of you. What we don't know yet is what we're going to get in terms of capital facilities. We have a pretty ambitious request for funds that will enable us to plan and design 2 very important new buildings, both of which, by the way, Andrea has her fingerprints on, and we're hoping for good news sometime this week. In addition to capital facilities money for 2 new important buildings, we expect considerable amount of critical maintenance money. Stony Brook has $1.8 billion worth of deferred maintenance. That's a staggering number. SUNY as a whole has $9 billion, so we're a very large proportion of SUNY's deferred maintenance, and I'm hoping for good outcome. I'm hoping for a good outcome there too. We can surely use it. One more thing we're hoping from the legislature, and it will occur after the budget is adopted, and that is we need a ground lease in order to proceed with some housing here on the Stony Brook campus. Ground leases are complicated. If you have time for a big beer, you could consult Carl Mills, and he can explain ground leases to you. But it's something that, in other words, to build it, to work with a private contractor to build a facility on our campus, we need a ground lease. And for historic reasons, the legislature has been stingy about ground leases. But thanks to Carl's lobbying and advocacy and a bit of my own, I think we're on track to get that. And that will be a huge step forward in providing the housing that we so badly need on this campus. Let me turn to the more challenging subject of the federal government. It's no surprise that the federal administration, no surprise to any of you that the federal administration has higher education in its sights, in its crosshairs. And that has manifested itself in several ways. We have lost research funding. Approximately 20 of our faculty have lost their grants. And in their labs, of course, they're not just those faculty members, but they're also lab technicians, graduate students, and postdoctoral fellows. So we are trying with good prospects to get back several of the ones we've lost. But meanwhile, we have an emergency fund to support especially the graduate students whose careers, through no fault of their own, are severely impacted when their PI loses funding. I should say, compared to what Princeton and Harvard and Johns Hopkins and Northwestern and other elite privates have faced, Stony Brook has not faced as nearly as serious a challenge. But every lost grant is about real people, faculty members, students, as I've said, lab technicians, and we're trying to address their challenges. We're also trying to discern the reasons why certain grants have been terminated and what we can do to make sure that going forward, as few as possible are terminated. One threat is that the overhead costs, finance and administrative costs associated with each grant, that pretty clear the federal government is trying to reduce that to 15%. Our negotiated rate is 59.8%, so reduction to 15% would be a problem. We're working on that with our lobbyists and advocates in Washington, as well as with our local congressman, who's very supportive of Stony Brook, by the way.
Have they been supportive? Lilota has been
Yes,
supportive?
Lilota has been supportive, yes. Let me mention as well several other things associated with the federal government. They are concerned, as you know, about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But as our chancellor has said, Chancellor King has observed, there will be no anticipatory overcompliance, meaning we're not taking things down from the website, we're not changing people's titles, we're not closing offices unless we have to, and we don't have to. All we have to do is make sure that there are no violations of federal law. We cannot have programs or opportunities that preference one group over another. If there's a program or an opportunity here at Stony Brook University, it is and will forever be open to everyone. But the challenges to higher education, well, they come in a larger context. It used to be when I was growing up, and until very recently, Americans in general agreed colleges and universities were good things. They benefited not only those who got the degrees and would earn higher incomes and live better and healthier lives, but they benefited our whole society because our economy and our healthcare and everything worth living in America depended upon them. That's the reason the federal government has invested so much over 80 years in university-based research. That's the reason the federal government has generously supported our students through Pell Grants and federal loans and other activities. But the tide of public opinion has turned, at least among a significant fraction of Americans who no longer consider higher education to be the absolute good that I was brought up and you were brought up to believe it is. I had the privilege of joining my fellow chancellors and presidents at a meeting of the AAU in Washington a week ago today. It was entirely devoted to these federal issues, and the concern that emerged most forcibly is, hey, we didn't deserve this perhaps, but we've got to take responsibility for fixing it. We've got to take responsibility for conveying better than we ever had to before the value of our institutions. One of the most striking moments in that meeting was when the president of Tulane introduced his United States Senator, the Republican Senator Cassidy, who began his remarks. And Cassidy's not an anti-higher education guy. His son is on the faculty at WashU in St. Louis. Body language suggested he had a great relationship with the president of Tulane, who was sitting right next to him. But he said, Senator Cassidy said, on my side of the aisle, most people believe your universities are insufficiently American. Insufficiently American. That got our attention. And it reminded us of the challenges that we've heard from that neck of the woods, concerns about access, affordability, skewed viewpoints, and the relevance of what we teach. We have our work cut out for us. We didn't ask for this. We didn't cause it. But somehow the aura, the glow that has surrounded higher education throughout most of our lifetimes is gone, at least among a significant majority, at least among a significant number, not a majority, significant number of Americans. And the task before us is to remedy that by explaining more clearly and crisply than ever before what we do and how deeply it matters to the American people. That's a big challenge. And I know Andrea is fully cognizant of the responsibility it will require.
Well
Let
said.
me turn to three initiatives of my own. I've not just kept the seat warm. I've also looked to the future, and I want to mention three ways in which I've done that. I said in my annual address, my address to the university community in September, that Stony Brook is an outstanding research university, but it's not yet as good as it can be. My predecessor advanced the goal, which I support, of doubling our federal research expenditures by the year 2030, but that won't happen by accident. It will require investments. It will require strategic thinking about how to position ourselves to obtain the resources we need, how to make the most of our comparative advantages, and many more things. So I convened a group of about a dozen of our top scientists in what I called my Science Futures Committee. I challenged them to imagine that it was the year 2035. Looking back on the previous 10 years, how can they imagine Stony Brook would continue to fulfill its highest aspirations in scientific research? I received their report last week. It's a terrific piece of work. It doesn't specifically say do this kind of science or that kind of science. The faculty will make those decisions for themselves, as they always have. But what it does say is if you want to achieve that goal of doubling research expenditures, you've got to make these investments, you've got to change these policies, you've got to foreground these opportunities. I won't provide those details now. The report will be a public document before long. It's an outstanding roadmap, which I hope President Goldsmith will find interesting and supportive. In a related vein, I said in my address to the university community that we have an outstanding academic health center across Nichols Road, and we have a great rest of the university over here on the West Campus, but there's too little collaboration between them. There are some examples of greatness. We have a terrific biomedical research program that reports jointly to the Dean of Engineering and the Dean of Medicine, and several other examples. But overall, and compared to some other universities where I've had the privilege of being, we're not taking full advantage of the proximity of an outstanding academic health center. So I appointed a task force chaired by Brenda Anderson, the president of the Senate, and co-chaired by Bill Wertheim, the executive vice president for Stony Brook Medicine and the health sciences generally, to suggest ways in which we can further the inevitable and collaborations between the health sciences and everything else. Just as in the Science Futures report, they didn't say establish this program or that program. What they did was focus on all of the barriers, and sad to say there are many that have prevented such collaboration or discouraged such collaboration or limited such collaboration in the future. That report is also done, and it will be a public document in a few days, and I commend that as well to President-elect Andrea Goldsmith. I think there's wonderful opportunities. I've seen what can happen when universities take full advantage of having great academic health centers contiguous with everything else. I've seen it in Chapel Hill. I've seen it in Seattle. We can surely do it here in Stony Brook.
And when those become available, Rachel, can you send them both those
I'd love
reports
to
to all
see that.
members of the
That's
council?
a brilliant idea.
Yeah. Sorry, you'll get the reports.
Yeah,
Believe me.
I
They're not
just-
quite done yet. We got to.
Yeah, so when they're ready.
Yeah, they're pretty close. I want to mention one more initiative of which I'm very proud. It builds on a model program that I established at Rutgers many years ago. And here at Stony Brook, it's called the Stony Brook Future Scholars Program. We're working with 5 economically disadvantaged school districts on Long Island, Bridgehampton, Hampton Bays, Southampton, Tuckahoe, and Riverhead. Working with them, we're going to identify within the next few weeks 100 rising 8th graders, boys and girls who finish the 7th grade. We're going to put our arms around them, promise to support them for the rest of high school, bring them onto campus, probably the Southampton campus, because that's where most of the districts are located in that area. Bring them onto the Southampton campus for academic programs and other fun stuff. Work with them to make sure they take college prep courses, and make the promise, if you're admitted to Stony Brook on the merits, you'll have free tuition.
Isn't that wonderful?
That won't be so hard, because these will be, for the most part, economically disadvantaged young men and women, and they will, assuming the Pell Grant program persists, and I'm confident it will, be eligible for Pell Grants and other need-based financial aid. Proud to say that Andrea has promised to join me at the launch of the Stony Brook Future Scholars Program on June 13th in Southampton. It's fortunate that she will be there, not only because she's the incoming president, and I very much want her to own this program, but because about half the families from whom our Stony Brook Future Scholars will be drawn speak Spanish in their home. They're Latino. and their first language is Spanish. Andrea, who is fluent in Spanish, has offered to address the students and their parents and their grandmas and their siblings in that language, something that I could not possibly do. I know from my experience at Rutgers that which over the years has had a comparable program. Several thousand students have gone through it. Boys and girls who might not even have been expected to graduate from high school, all graduated from high school. Virtually all went on to college. Many to Rutgers, some to Harvard and Penn. If we can do it in Camden, New Brunswick, and Newark, we can surely do it on Long Island.
Great.
Let me mention just a couple more things, a couple of initiatives also looking to the future. Beginning in the fall, Stony Brook will offer a small number of courses, probably 3, on the campus of Nassau Community College. And in the long run, we have an arrangement with them that we believe, and this is due to our outstanding provost, Carl Lejway, program that will enable us to offer more and more courses there. Presumably, these will be Stony Brook courses taught by Stony Brook faculty, Stony Brook students, presumably students from Queens, Brooklyn, Nassau, saving their driving time to Stony Brook, or at least reducing their driving time, reducing the carbon emissions from the vehicles that they would drive, enabling them to take courses close to home. This in the long run offers us both budgetary and enrollment opportunities. We can enroll more New York State students, some of whom may take in due course may take all of their courses on the Nassau Community College campus. And that won't happen in the short run, but it could be in the future. It will enable us to educate more New York State students, perhaps diminish the number of houses we'll have to build on the Stony Brook campus, and so it'll be a benefit budgetarily and a benefit in terms of our enrollment. I could not be more proud of this program, and I thank the provost and his team for making it happen. Thank Wendy Pearson for another new initiative. We have an alliance with the New York Law School in Manhattan, beautiful new glass building in Tribeca, where we will also be offering courses. Notice we're imperializing to the east and imperializing to the west. Southampton, Nassau, Manhattan. Our School of Social Welfare will begin offering courses in the New York Law School building beginning in September. Other disciplines will follow, so we'll have a larger footprint in Manhattan than we have ever had before. I'm very, very proud of that. I want to mention finally our alliance, Andrea's already mentioned it, with the New York Climate Exchange. In March, I sent out a communication. It's setting forth for the campus, really for the first time in quite a while, what the New York Climate Exchange is doing, where its areas of emphasis are, what we do and how we do it. And I'm proud that as the interim chair of the board, I have stimulated that thoughtfulness about, well, what is the Climate Exchange really doing? Well, that communication, which you've seen, I'll send it to you again, explains it. I'm proud to say this is another area in which Andrea Goldsmith has taken a very deep dive, doing a great deal more than she needs to be doing at this point. But I am truly grateful to have her partnership in the leadership of the New York Climate Exchange. Needless to say, the Climate Exchange is endangered as well. The current federal administration doesn't like climate stuff. Because the Climate Exchange currently has no federal grants, supports, it's not been impacted monetarily to date. But its partners, including Stony Brook, have federal support in that area, and so we're going to watch that. We're going to watch that very carefully. I have great hopes for the New York Climate Exchange. I'm proud of my predecessor for bringing it to Stony Brook, and confident that my successor will make a grand success of it. Because this is, as we've already observed, my final meeting at the Stony Brook Council, I want to say how grateful I am for the opportunity to be interim president of Stony Brook. Some people say, how generous it was for me to give up my retirement to come and take on this terrible job. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I wasn't retired. I wasn't lounging on a beach drinking Mai Tais. And when I was presented with the opportunity to be interim president of Stony Brook, I leapt at the chance. One last opportunity to provide leadership for a public institution of higher education was irresistible to me. I've spent my whole professional career at such institutions. I believe deeply in my bones, if I have a religion, that's it, in the mission of public research universities, Rutgers, New York, North Carolina, Washington, and now Stony Brook. And I must say, this has been a glorious year. It's been a glorious year because, first of all, because of the culture of our place. Stony Brook has lots of smart men and women. They want what they want it yesterday. But here they have each other's backs. They're not at each other's throats. We have students who are strivers. Andrea described them very well. They're first in their families to come to college. They're from Brooklyn and Queens and other economically disadvantaged places. They're here. They didn't come to protest. They came to get an education. They came to strive. And Stony Brook has a tremendous reputation for lifting them up. We have the best record of any university in the country of moving students from the lowest quintile of family income to the third and fourth and even the fifth quintile of family income. It's a remarkable accomplishment. I'm so proud of this place. I'm so proud of our faculty. We don't have the best buildings. We don't have the biggest budget, that's for sure. But what we have are men and women in their laboratories and in their classrooms and in the library, deeply committed to advancing new knowledge and transmitting it to the next generation. This is public higher education at its finest. And I could not be prouder that as my career winds down, I've had an opportunity to see that and contribute to it here at Stony Brook University. So to everyone, to my partners in leadership at Stony Brook, to the Stony Brook Council, to my successor, I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great job, Dick. Thank you very much. I got one question for you, or a clarification, because when you started talking about the federal impacts to our campus, the federal government took away the visas of 11 or so of our students.
Yes.
But we hear there's good news about them.
I forgot to mention that. Yes, we did receive the news a couple of weeks ago that 11 of our students had lost their visas. We don't really know why. There was no pattern. They were from various countries, but happily they have been restored. Across the country, there were 1,500 students in that category. Only a very small number were at Stony Brook, but again, they were real live individuals whose lives were interrupted, and I'm happy to say those visas have been restored. I don't think we're necessarily out of the woods. I think the federal administration still has its sights on international students. One of our concerns, this is a longer answer than you probably bargained for, we do have very, very many Chinese students. They make up 37% of our international students, who in turn make up a significant fraction of our student body. We're very hopeful that they will be able to return in the fall. Very hopeful they'll be able to get home this summer if they wish to go home, and return in the fall without any visa problems either there or here. We're going to keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, we can be grateful that the 11 who lost their immigration status have now been restored.
That's great news. Great news. All right. Well, unless there's any other questions, we got a busy agenda. So, any other questions for Dick? All right. Hearing none. Dick, thank you very much. I'm going to take, because we're going to lose Karen and Father Alex at 10. We have one vote we need to make. So I'm going to move that agenda item up, and then we'll get to the rest of the agenda. So I'm going to ask Adam Furtman to make a presentation, because we need to update the student code of student responsibility.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Thank you to Chairman Law, President McCormick, President Goldsmith, and members of the Stony Brook Council. It's a pleasure to see you all and be here today to present the changes to the code. A committee representing a cross-section of the university, including faculty, staff, and students, recently completed our annual review of the Code of Student Responsibility and have submitted proposed changes for your review and approval. I'll briefly summarize them and then answer any questions that you may have. Our first proposed change is related to our hazing policy. Our proposal in this section modifies the code's definition of hazing to include language adopted in the Federal Stop Campus Hazing Act, which was signed into law in December of 2024. Our next proposed change is to our posting policy. This new language ensures consistency with the university's posting policy, which was updated in August of 2024. So keeping the language consistent with the all-university policy. The next proposed change simply adds the word "or" to our fire safety policy, which clarifies that creating a fire does not need to occur in order for this policy to be violated, obviously ensuring safety and security on our campus. and not needing a fire to take place. Our next proposed change clarifies that it is at the discretion, this is on page 12 of our code, that it is at the discretion of the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards to refer a matter to a mediation process instead of a student conduct process, which is always how it operated in practice. We just wanted to make sure that that was operationalized in the text as well. The next proposed change on page 13 of the code clarifies our investigation process for allegations of misconduct. In the sentence detailing possible elements of the investigation process, it adds the word may to show that all investigatory elements are not always necessary and therefore up to the discretion of the investigator. Our final proposal, which was broken down into two parts, was the result of some helpful feedback we received from students this year. It clarifies an important step in our student conduct process by explaining the notification for students involved in the process and further explains the two options for resolution at this stage, either a student conduct meeting or a student conduct hearing. The second part of that proposal does not change any language, however, it does reorganize multiple sections, sections 4A4 through 4A9, under 4A3B and renumbers them 4A3B1 through 4A3B6. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions about the proposals.
Adam, a lot of it just seems like cleaning things up and making them consistent, but the one that catches my eye is on hazing. Since it seems like once a month we hear of some tragic hazing incident at whether it's a high school or a college. Can you just clarify what we're doing here on the hazing matter?
Sure, absolutely. It really, honestly, it did not change our policy much. We just added some clarifying language to make it consistent with the federal law. It didn't really, our hazing policy was robust and actually operationalized in best practice for the university communities across the country. This just added some language to make sure that we were being consistent with what was in the new federal law.
And are there state laws we have to be consistent with as well, or is all of this dictated by federal law?
No, absolutely. All of our policies are in compliance with state law as well as federal law, since we are beholden to both entities.
Got it. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Adam on this?
The change from May on the investigation.
Sure.
So you're basically saying if the complainant doesn't want to be interviewed, they can still go forward without the complainant. Is that the main change?
The main change is related to, so there were a few elements in there as far as how an investigation could occur. It could be by taking statements, by interviewing witnesses. What we're saying is that all of those are not necessary or aren't necessary in certain cases. If there's a pretty simple case of, let's say, a noise policy violation in the residence halls, we're not going to launch an investigation and interview all of the residents of the floor. We're going to focus on, the main parties involved in that case. So
showed up, the music was playing.
Exactly. I mean, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that basically sort of says, depending on the severity, we're not going to need to launch a full-fledged, week-long investigation. It can be something resolved in a much shorter period of time.
Okay. All right, so I will move Adam's recommendations to amend and update the Student Code of Responsibility. Chris Hahn seconds it. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, although Dick, alluded to some of it, Carl Mills is going to give us a brief presentation on the executive state budget. Carl?
Great. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I also just want to start by thanking Dick for spending a lot of time at Albany in a very short period of time. He had some very strong relationships with our delegation, which obviously made our advocacy helpful. And clearly we're fortunate to have Secretary Keogh on the council, so hopefully she can chime in where I may be off right now. But last week, the governor announced an overall kind of framework for the state budget. Really just things that were closed down already. We're still not quite there. These are just some of the notable initiatives that I think are pertinent to our needs. It looks like there's about $2 billion more in spending over the executive budget, which is about a 5 to 6% increase over FY25. A number of her affordability proposals, including middle-class tax cuts and inflation refund checks, were done. Obviously, the big elephant is always funding of the MTA, and it looks like there's a plan to fully fund the MTA capital plan. And perhaps for, most notable for us, the governor's proposal to provide free community college for adults in high needs fields looks to be secured in the budget. Until we see the final language, it's not clear what that will exactly entail, but if it mirrors her executive budget, I think that's very positive, especially for Nassau and Suffolk Community College. The last bullet, obviously a lot of the air in the press and things that have been talked about. It looks like the governor got some very notable wins in a bell-to-bell cell phone ban, heightened penalties for wearing a mask in furtherance of a crime, Class A or a misdemeanor or above, discovery law reforms, and some changes to the involuntary commitment, Kendra's law. For our priorities, nothing has really been announced yet, so all of these things we perceive as continuing to be open. And capital, SUNY hospitals, and operating aid are typically the three tranches that we focus our advocacy on. And as Dick mentioned, operating aid seems to be pretty much closed down. So I'm just going to maybe go quickly on what we expect to be getting from operating aid. So if you'll recall, for those that have been here for a while, for about 10 or 11 years, operating aid was flat. So we got $147.7 million every year. And when I'm advocating, I like having a chart. I think it's a lot easier for elected officials to understand what you're doing. And you can see the flat operating aid, and each year our CSIs, our contractual salary increases, going up every single year. And I think up until about 3 years ago when things changed, we were looking at like 90% of our state aid was going just to cover our labor costs. And the chart we had said that if nothing changed, more money that we were getting from Albany was going to go just to pay our contracts. So the governor put forward a really transformative budget 3 years ago that allowed for basically increased tuition as our revenue raiser. For a number of reasons, the legislature was not supportive of that, but one of our strongest advocates and Speaker Hasty made a commitment to us that in lieu of tuition, we were going to get that operating aid. So what we said is that's great, but a 1 year bump is not going to do anything. What we like about tuition is that it's predictable. We know how much we're going to get each year. And that was like a light bulb went off. He goes, oh, let's do a 3-year operating aid plan. So under the governor's leadership and Majority Leader Stuart Cousins and the speaker, they did a 3-year operating aid plan that was put in the state financial plan. So if you'll see, we got $148 million. SUNY in FY24 3 years ago got 163. Our share of that increase was $24 million. Last year, it was $114 million, and our share was, again, about $24 million. And I'll show what that means for Stony Brook on the next slide. But really what that's showing is we're getting substantial increases to not only cover our labor costs, but that number in lieu of tuition, what that percentage increase would have been. So this is projected. Last year, the governor put forward $54 million, and the legislature came on top with an additional 60. That's how we got to that 114. The governor put a full 114 in, so that meant our advocacy on operating aid was more or less done. She fully funded what it is we were looking for. So this is just showing that in a different way. So 4 years ago, we were at our 148 million. The first year, plus the 24 that we got from the increase, brought us up to 171. Last year, with the increase built into the base, was 196. And right now, we're assuming that if we project, and Jed can perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, on average, we're looking at somewhere between a 9.1 and a $20 million increase, depending on how SUNY distributes that operating aid that they get from that lump sum payment. So I'll stop there if there's any questions on operating aid, but that's kind of made it very easy to take one advocacy thing off of the table, because operating aid is a little difficult to ask folks to support. Where our main advocacy has been on capital. And capital, as we know, is kind of broken down in two main categories: critical maintenance, which is repairing things that we already have. And the last couple of years, we've had research, or what we call flexible capital, which is allowing us to build new. So I broke this down basically on where we started in January to kind of where we are right now. So on critical maintenance, whereas Dick had mentioned, we have 1.7 of SUNY's $9 billion in critical maintenance. They said, hey, DOT, MTA, they get a multi-year capital plan. SUNY said SUNY needs a multi-year capital plan so that we can start investing, because these 1 year critical maintenance gaps is really not going to start eating into billions of dollars in critical maintenance. The governor maintained the campus direct support, which is critical maintenance that we just get for each individual campus at $550, but did increase the overall pot for SUNY. What the Senate did is they took $6 billion in a 4-year capital plan. So they did 1.5 billion in FY26 for the next 4 years. That's phenomenal. The challenge that we have is the Assembly didn't do that. They just put 300 million in new critical maintenance. When we look on the research capital, and this is really where most of our advocacy has been, SUNY had requested 800 million for the 4 university centers. The executive put us in a really good starting point by putting 200 million in, but the Senate accepted that 200. The Assembly put the full ask of the 800. So when we look at, where is the challenge? In a perfect world, the two houses might have had a two-way agreement on where they wanted to spend that capital, but we're looking at 800 million in research versus 1.5 billion in critical maintenance. We've been asking for both, so hopefully at the end, when a budget is put together, there'll be some combination of the two. We're kind of looking at all capital as green, but clearly being able to build new is our priority with those two buildings that President McCormick had mentioned. The hospitals pose a slightly different challenge. If you want to take a step back to last year, downstate has obviously had challenges for a very long time. And the legislature and the governor put forward a plan last year to substantially increase capital and operating aid at downstate. So the 450 that SUNY is requesting there is pretty much built into what the SUNY downstate transformation plan had asked for. I guess to take a step back, each year we get 50 million in bonded capital for the 3 hospitals. There's a $150 million appropriation for upstate, downstate, and Stony Brook. So that 450 that downstate got is in addition to the 50. This year, SUNY had also asked for 450 million for upstate to build a new emergency department. So Stony Brook was still at that 50 million without that robust capital plan. So I'll talk in a minute about kind of how we're tackling next year. What the governor did is she accepted SUNY's request for 450 million plus the 50 for downstate, and basically cut in half what upstate was going to get at 200. The Senate and the Assembly both came in with the two-way agreement. When I mentioned previously, if they came in with a two-way agreement on the critical maintenance and the research capital, makes my advocacy a little easier up in Albany. They basically did that on the hospitals, except they drastically increased what downstate was going to get. $250 million more than even what SUNY had asked for. So you're looking at $750 million just for downstate, and yet we're still at the 50 million. So when you're looking at over $1 billion on the SUNY hospital side, plus all of the money we're asking on the academic side, that's a lot of money in a fiscally challenging time. So hopefully, at the end of the day, the legislature and the governor can take care of the hospitals where they are needed, while also ensuring that we get our research capital and critical maintenance. Now, because there is such this glaring difference in what we're getting, we've already begun the process of what's our ask going to be for next year so that we can get an equitable share that the other 2 hospitals are getting. And lastly, just, there's, I'm sure, a slew of remaining points that still need to be addressed, but for our purposes, clearly SUNY has not been closed down yet. Medicaid is really the big elephant in the room for where we're sitting, just because so much of that really goes down to that potential federal budget cuts. You're looking, I could be off by a little bit, but you're looking at roughly $90 billion in federal funding goes to support our budget. So how the legislature and the governor come to an agreement on how they deal with whatever cuts may come or what may come in the big, beautiful budget from the federal government, how they may have to revisit that in the fall is something that is being discussed at the moment. So that's kind of my top level thing, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Very well done, Carl. Sort of not budget related, but Dick referred to it in his presentation. The ground lease that is going to be between now and the end of the session. Is that for the research park and the item you were trying to pursue last year?
Vico?
Or
No.
is it for what Bill Herman is going to be sharing with us in a few minutes?
So it's actually a project adjacent to, I think, what you're speaking about, the modular dorms? Yeah, okay. This is a ground lease just to build 1,900 units on the northeast corner of our academic campus adjacent to the train station. So this is the P3 housing project. This is what we're working on with DASNY, KPMG, Brailsford and Dunleavy and Oric to basically put forward a plan to build undergraduate, graduate, Simon STEM scholars, and medical resident housing.
And some student-friendly commercial places on the first floor.
Is this is this what Bill is gonna be sharing with us next? This item, or is?
No, that's Seawolves Village.
I'm sorry?
Seawolves Village, phase 1.
It's separate.
Right.
Different.
Seawolves Village is an intermediate step.
No, okay, but,
So that's what you had referred to at a previous.
This looks to long-term housing that will be constructed perhaps in 3 years. Just this side of the railroad station, 1,900 units, first level of student-friendly
we haven't
commercial
gotten a
establishments.
presentation on that yet. have we?
Seawolves Village envisions 476 units, which will open in the fall.
All right. That's what we're gonna get a presentation on from Bill.
Correct.
And- But the thing Carl just said, have we gotten a presentation on that yet?
Isn't that the one they,
We
is similar to something they
Tried
introduced
like
several
8 years ago?
Yeah.
It's prefab.
It's kind of a reboot of that. We're not really, we're not even at the process of design or vendor or any of those other sorts of things. It's get the ground lease first. DASNY has agreed to do some of the consulting on it, but it hasn't been even close. The ingredients aren't even there yet, much less in the oven to make.
All right, we'll discuss it offline. All right, thanks.
We
Anybody
can do
have,
a presentation on it at the next meeting.
anybody have any questions for Carl on the budget? Was Karen able, I know she had to leave at 10. Karen, are you still there, and do you have any comments on anything Carl said? Nope, she's gone. All right. So, very good call, but good job and good luck this week and between now and the end of session. Okay. Now, Chris Martin and Catherine Mary Rivera. So it's not Bill. I keep on saying Bill. But these guys work with you. They work with you. And they're going to give us a presentation on the prefab, which we have had a presentation on before.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kevin. With today's presentation, we want to go through a little bit more of the steps, because when I presented back in December, we were really still in the design phase. So we've completed the design, we've gotten into getting approvals, and we actually had started the site work back in December, early January. So the site itself on this map is the dark blue area up in here, adjacent to the athletic indoor practice facility along Stadium Road. And so just a reminder of where we're talking about with that. And then this is the actual configuration of the different buildings. They're 2-story buildings. There's 7 of them. 5 of them have a first floor and a second floor that are student residents. And then the other 2 have the support space for the students on the first floor, and the second floor is residence for the students. And then you may ask, what's this little building here? That's a utility that has our main switchgear. It has for electrical power, it has our generators in there. So it's supporting that whole entire complex. And this came further along with more of a design of the site itself, having the roadways around or pathways around each of the buildings, having a center area here for the students to gather, and kind of a main entry into the area over here. What we've also done is we added some additional parking. It's 50 spaces over here because we know parking is an issue, and we're adding more cars, so we have more area for parking. And this is the site. This was just taken the other day. What you're looking at, this is the indoor practice facility. These are the actual foundations, the piers that the modular buildings, each section comes in and will sit on 2 of these, and then they just build right after that, 1 section at a time. So each section is approximately 13 feet by 44 feet deep, and they'll be craned in, lifted in place, and then just put together as we go along. So it's just showing you that the work that's been constructed. We have this large retaining wall in the back that's along the roadway by the indoor facility that leads down going towards the railroad tracks. But it's just showing you the different site utilities that are going in, we have electrical going, we have plumbing going in, we have sprinkler for the buildings because they have to be 100% sprinkled by code. But a lot of great progress. We're anticipating for the modular units to start coming to the site in June, beginning of June. And to go into fabrication and then come to the site in July. And then that's when you start seeing a lot of the work start progressing quickly. Right now you go out there and you look like a lot of machines moving around, but when you actually come up to the site, you start seeing more of the foundations going in. A lot of the infrastructure that most of us don't see all the time, that's actually going in. So it's a lot of work that happens before all of them come in, and then quickly it will be put together like a puzzle, and 2 stories will go up, and all of a sudden you start seeing buildings.
So they're coming in July, and students will be living in them in the end of August?
No, we were pushing for that, but no, unfortunately
It
no.
sounds ambitious, but you feel pretty confident.
We're confident that we're going to be getting them in the actual units coming, and we're getting so many a day, and they're storing on site, and then you'll see the cranes coming in and having them put in place. It will happen quickly because it is like the puzzle being put together. They're all fitted together. They're all just get bolted together and connected with the utilities.
Right.
But students, we're looking at coming in late November or after that, just after that. It's later than we anticipated. It's been a little bit longer in the process of designing these, getting approvals, but we're very successful in how we've come along. We've been working great together with campus residents. It's a great partnership that we've been having with Rick Coteau and with Catherine Mary. Just as we're designing as we go to put this together. And this is just showing you the floor plans. And it is more traditional dorm style with two beds, and so 2 students in each room, with a common corridor with communal bathrooms, and that's what each of the residence floors will be looking like. And then this is the more support space where you have a lounge, you have laundries, you have a kitchenette area, and offices and support space.
That's me. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Hi, as I said earlier, I'm Catherine Mary Rivera, Assistant Vice President for Campus Residences. I've been here at Stony Brook for 10 years, working in housing. So this is an example. I sent a team down to Virginia. So VSU actually used the same company that we are using, Modular Genius, to get a look at their facilities, learn from them, what was missing, what do we need to add, where can we individualize for us, and brought that information back. So these are just some basic, as you can tell, it's a basic double if you've ever been in a residence hall room. This is what a traditional hall would look like. As Christopher said, traditional double corridor style hall. Bathrooms, we learned a lot about the bathroom ratio, so we did add some extra bathrooms and showers to try to lower the density of showers and toilets, so we were able to do some customization. There were limits, but we were able to do that with some of them. I want to show you some of the renderings. So welcome to Seawolves Village. Really excited about what this opportunity can bring to the community. It's a unique community. These are some of the renderings. You can't tell the color. It is not gray. It's actually Baltic blue, and chose that very intentionally because of the location. There's the indoor recreation facility. We're near the stadium, the other fields. So thought that the name Seawolves Village, my team and I came up with, kind of brings a different kind of energy and excitement, more of the athletic look of that branding to the coloring here. So they are a dark blue with pops of red and gray throughout the community. You are looking at it from this way, from H Community is over there by the sports court. So this is the, what is it called?
Stadium.
No, yeah, Stadium Drive, but the environmental center that's there. So that's that visual looking at it there. That way, this is coming from the indoor recreation facility looking on from that way towards Stadium Drive. As Christopher said, there are 7 buildings, 12 will have residential students, 492 beds. So there'll be 12 RAs, 2 residence hall directors, and it holds 492. There will be some communal space in the middle that we're really excited about. Where you see Seawolves Village on that rendering, and there's another one here. These are the 2 support common buildings on the first floor. As Christopher said, the typical lounges, kitchenette. The residence hall directors will live in each of those buildings, but we will have a fitness room in one of the buildings. We'll have a computing center in the other. So it'll be just as if you were in a traditional style hall when you come to that common space, all the services, their mail, the staff, the RA offices, and study space. And so as Christopher shared already about the projected timeline, when everything is coming to campus, when we hope to move in students, it'll be phased in approach. Late November could be tough for some populations to move in depending. So it will be a phased in approach. Who will live there? Well, the first year is going to be a unique year because they're not coming at the start of the year. So who the possible occupants can be for the first year out would be any new spring admits that need housing. We would offer them Seawolves Village. A good part that we didn't share is that it does have air conditioning. It will be climate controlled. That most of our traditional halls do not have AC, so we think that will be a good carrot for some of our students. If we need to utilize the radius this year, which we're still right in the middle of working out all of our new admissions and who needs housing and working out all of that, this week will be a big indicator whether we need to use our radius plan. We definitely have waitlist students, our returning students. We already have over 400 students on the wait list waiting for housing. So we have a wait list. If we need to employ temporary triples that we do, we use that as a temporary measure where we add an extra bed to an already traditional double. And these would be some of the first students to be de-tripled into the new housing if we needed to employ triples this year. And currently this year, we do have students living in a local hotel, and we have that as a possibility for this fall also, and we would pull them over.
Right, so the first students will not be living in there until November.
Yes.
So I thought, if I misheard, I apologize. When I asked before, they were coming in July, and I thought we were trying to get students in there by August, end of August. I thought that sounded very ambitious.
Yes, no, yeah, a lot of site work once they get here. To make them look at how the renderings are. So we will not have students in there until at least end of November.
Got it,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, so we have a lot of contingencies in place for students and to offer for students that we don't have housing, saying we have something coming online, get ready for that.
And you expect a lot of competition from the kids to live in these units.
We're hoping, yeah, you know, who wants to be the first to try it out. But in the future, so the following year, what we're really excited about is that we'll be typically housing for returning students, not first year students. Most likely sophomores, because they are traditional style, they're not suites or apartments or singles, where the juniors and seniors are looking for a different experience. So more than likely sophomores. We will be having and offering summer conferences. We have in our housing system, both at Southampton and here, a very robust summer conference program. So since they are climate controlled, we will be offering these for summer conferences. And then in the future, next year, we're also going to pilot some of our living learning communities that we have on campus. This will be home to one of them. And we definitely know we're going to be doing one called Sustainable Seawolves. Definitely want to maybe do some partnerships with athletics and other programs on campus to see if they want to bring a unique community there. Okay, any questions for Christopher and I?
Yeah, and what college did you say you visited and they're already using this company's product?
VSU down in Virginia. They did it as a temporary measure after COVID. Theirs are leased, not owned. So ours are going to be owned and permanent, lasting us, up to 50 years. So we did want to see what the Modular Genius unit looked like, and then we have done some customization different than they did. They had to take off the shelf, but we learned a lot about what kind of electrical power, what was happening with Wi-Fi, student experience, definitely the visuals. Theirs definitely looked very basic. They did some customization in terms of signage and everything like that. But that's why we put a lot of time into what the landscape of the community looks like to minimize the the wondering and thoughts, is it temporary? Is it, modular homes? Is it trailer? Whatever it is, that this is a permanent community.
But they liked the quality and they were not complaining about the quality
No.
and, leaks and things like that.
Yeah, no. Once you are inside, honestly, you
can't
walk
tell.
through the hall, you think you're in a traditional style hall. It looks exactly the same on a traditional style double corridor with common bathrooms. Yep.
Yeah, I heard you say the bathrooms, the gym and stuff, will there also be laundry?
Yes,
for the kids
everything
too?
will be in the two, laundry will be double in the two community spaces.
And
Yes.
will they all be co-ed or are there some for women, some for guys?
It will be, so we will have spaces by floor. It is gender identity. And we also do house at Stony Brook, we have gender inclusive housing, so we will have a floor that could be a gender inclusive floor too, but yes.
Right. Anybody else have questions?
Probably just want to add, one of the nice things about this is that it's much cheaper, much faster, than regular dormitory housing. DASNY is putting up the debt for this. They're issuing the debt through SUNY. So they agree on the 50-year life. These are will be on 30-year bonds in DASNY. And I think the price per bed is a fraction of what normal dormitory beds cost. If I remember correctly, Bill, we're coming in at what about?
Yes, our standard housing program is $200,000 per bed. These came in at $88,000 per bed.
Frank?
The maximum number of floors that you chose 2, is that the maximum or could it have been 3? And
No.
if so, why?
Yeah, so for this one, again, what we talked about was more of how quickly we needed to get them done. So we did pick a model that did have limited customization. So looking for future possibilities, we've been exploring prefabricated housing that could go up to 3 or 4 stories. This was just more, again, this model to get something fast and quick. Yeah.
Thank you.
But you won't be able to add 2 additional floors on these units. We'd have to find a different site.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, my company is, we're actually looking at modular units as well. It's becoming pretty common in the market rate housing as well. And some of them go, 7, 8 stories.
Yeah.
And we're hearing really good things about them. The problem is they're built very far away and very expensive to, say, get to the island.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and you're trying to make a project pencil out and the increased transportation cost eats into the lower cost of the units. And so it'd be great if we had a company building them somewhere on the island.
Here.
On the total cost for these units, is transportation of them a big part of the overall cost, or like what percentage? Do we have that figure?
Percentage-wise is, but it's not as expensive, I guess I should think it is. It's
isn't
a
it
portion of it, but
Isn't it about right, Bill, that about 50% of the total cost is site prep?
That's right.
So really, when you look at what this thing is costing us, half of it is preparing the site, making sure the utilities are good, laying the foundation and everything else. The modular units themselves are pretty inexpensive.
And the transportation is included in the
Included,
cost of the unit or
absolutely.
the site prep?
it's included in the unit cost.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are 25 million, so as Jed's saying, the rest of the cost is the balance of the project, the site work, and the furnishing, the design.
Good. And if it works out and the kids like them, we'll look to do more modulars, in the future.
Yes,
Right.
and we're doing research now on what ideally students would want. They're going to be here 30 years. What is the format and the plan for returning students and older students? This was the quick model. And it's a really exciting time to work on these projects and with housing, because we are just growing and booming, as you heard, P3 and more Seawolves Village, and we also have a Tabler community building coming online in fall 27, early 28, which was already in the works, which is a 6 building in Tabler, which would be a suite style with efficiency kitchens in it, 310 beds. We're growing. We've added about 1,300 new beds, buildings in the last 10 years, and 345 we changed over lounges and other things. So we're finding space and growing as fast as we can, but it does take time.
Great. Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
And Jed, maybe you or Bill, when we meet again in October, you give us a quick update. how it's all going. So, any questions, Andrea or Linda? Was one of you have your hand raised? Nope.
Congrats to the team on putting this together so quickly.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So our last agenda item is a update from our athletic director, Sean Heilbrunn. And I saw Sean recently, and Sean, like many of you in the room, was very helpful during the search process and helping out. And I asked him, Chris and I go to a lot of the basketball games, we see him, and there's such competition now, and college sports is not what college sports used to be, I guess, when we were all in college or up until just 3 or 4 years ago. And it's very much a big business, and the students are paid a lot of money in several places, and it's impacting universities that don't have that kind of money, especially public ones. And so I asked Sean to just give us an overall quick update on the athletics department, and then how the NIL, and maybe he could explain what NIL is for people who don't even know what it is yet, and how that is impacting our programs.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes. This could be a full day session, really a full week session. Andrea mentioned times of disruption. This is certainly that in Division I college athletics. And so our task ahead is to figure out how do we thrive in that. So what I want to do here is, again, just tell you a little bit about what's going on. I will give you some insight into how we're handling it. And then this is going to be an ongoing conversation with the greater campus community. But you can't look at the news today without seeing another sensationalized headline about the state of college athletics. Everything from the House settlement, which I'm going to get into momentarily, which will allow direct payments to student athletes. The transfer portal is out of control. Student athletes are, as Kevin mentioned, receiving 7-figure salaries on an annual basis. General managers are being hired at 7-figure salaries. It is unlike anything we've ever seen before. So a quick history of how we got to this point in Division I. So 1956 is the first time we saw athletic scholarships being offered. So again, this is where we've come. And you can see what, over time, the NCAA held so firm to their rules and challenged any notion of student athletes receiving any type of not only financial compensation, but any material compensation as well. Everything changed in 2009, though, when Ed O'Bannon, I was actually working at UCLA at the time, Ed O'Bannon, who was a basketball player at UCLA, was on the championship team in 1995, saw himself in a video game. His name, his likeness, and realized he'd never been contacted, no permission was asked. So that led to a class action lawsuit, which was known as the O'Bannon case. So that was the first crack in the amateurism model as we know it, saying that student athletes should be compensated for name, image, and likeness, which obviously stands for NIL. Then we saw in 2014 Northwestern football players request to unionize. The NLRB did deny that petition, but it, again, started this conversation. And as we looked now to 2019, it really started to come. The drumbeat was banging more and more frequently and more loudly, and California actually became the first state to pass NIL legislation saying that student athletes could receive financial compensation for their name, image, and likeness, and that they could not be punished by the NCAA. So California actually preempted NCAA legislation at the time. That led other states to jump in, and finally, in 2022, the NCAA said, okay, we give up. We're going to issue interim guidance to allow NIL legislation. It was just a constant barrage of litigation, and the NCAA just was up against it. And then in 2024, the NCAA, the Power Four conference, ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, and SEC, entered into a settlement agreement with House, which is the name of a swimmer at Arizona State, hence the House settlement, which I'm going to share a little more information with you about, because our world in athletics has been all about the House settlement. That's everything. So if you haven't heard it, in the news, you're going to hear about it because it should be finalized any day now. So essentially, this is what the House settlement means. It will provide back damages to student athletes who competed between 2016 and 2024 to the tune of $2.8 billion. So former student athletes have the opportunity to opt in, opt out, or object. So again, this is a class action lawsuit. The other major piece to the settlement is it will allow institutions for the first time ever to directly provide financial compensation to student athletes through revenue sharing. And I use that in air quotes because not all schools have revenue to share. But that is the form in which it will be distributed. The settlement does cap the amount that schools are directly able to provide at first year of $20.5 million. Now, certainly you're seeing Power 4 schools saying they're going to be distributing the max amount, and then anything above and beyond that can be done through third-party agreements. But this is where all this money is starting to come in for student athletes. And then the other major component of the House settlement is it eliminates athletic scholarship limits. So each sport had a certain cap on how many scholarships you could offer, but you could have as many athletes on the team as you would like. Well, now it institutes roster limits, but essentially anyone on a roster could receive a full scholarship. So again, it's changing how student athletes are seen in the parlance of Division I. So those are the main bullets. Quick timeline. This goes back October 7th. Judge Claudia Wilkin, who actually heard the O'Bannon case back in 2009, she is in the Northern Court in California. She gave her preliminary approval of the settlement. Then obviously there was a period where student athletes could make their declaration. Schools had to make a decision whether they were going to opt in or opt out. Dick was part of the CAA Board of Directors meeting in which the CAA board decided as a group we were all going to opt in. I will tell you that this is where Division I is going. So the majority of Division I schools are opting in to the terms of the settlement. Those who are opting out, of which actually Albany and Binghamton are opting out, I think will find themselves exploring whether or not they will opt in the future. But certainly all the Power 4 institutions in the majority of Division I are opting in. Judge Wilkin held the hearing on April 7th, which the hopeful final approval of the settlement would be granted. She actually went back and asked the attorneys involved to look deeper at the roster limit issue, because as you can imagine, many student athletes will find themselves without a home due to cuts that would need to be made. So I do anticipate the attorneys on the plaintiff side, the NCAA side, will come back and have a recommendation for the roster limits, and it will get approved. And then the implementation for all of this will be July 1 of this year. Where else are we with Division I? So the House settlement has opened up a giant chasm to throw every single element that could be at the state of Division I college athletics. So right now, it's all about money. It is all about money, particularly at the highest levels. And that brings a greater emphasis on football and basketball, particularly men's basketball. There are athletes earning seven-figure deals annually. And now the way the transfer rules work, because they were challenged by attorneys, athletes can now transfer on an annual basis, which is really sad because, as I have a bullet there, transfer rates are going up. The graduation rates are really, really decreasing. And it is a scary thing to see if you look at the data. There is a current proposal that once the House settlement is finalized, I do believe will take shape, and that is to give student athletes 5 seasons of eligibility and do away with waivers. Again, without boring you to death, students now are putting in waivers if they were injured, if they played at a junior college. So what the NCAA would like to do is say, we'll give everyone 5 years. The House settlement does give the NCAA the ability to set their own eligibility requirements. So that I think will come too. There is going to be a new governance structure at the NCAA that will give greater influence to the Power Four conferences. So again, how do the Stony Brooks of the world continue to advocate and continue to have a seat at the table? I sit on the Division I Council now, representing the CAA. Will the Division I Council exist moving forward, or will it really be a group led by Power Four decision makers, and we have to follow along? So that is something to watch. I mentioned the transfer rates, and then congressional intervention continues, because what the NCAA wants to avoid at all costs is student athletes being categorized as employees. So we'll see where that goes. So where are we in this environment? Again, worked at UCLA, had a chance to spend a lot of time with John Wooden, and he said, if we fail to adapt, we fail to move forward. We are adapting. We have no choice. This is a great time of excitement in athletics. There's a lot of momentum. Our student athletes earned the highest GPA we've ever had in a non-COVID term, 3.36. We're always going to be about the student athlete experience, transforming their lives and setting them up for a future beyond sports. But we got great things going on competitively. We've got a great football coach, or a national coach of the year, after leading our football team on a historic turnaround. We have 3 CAA titles under our belt this year. We won 2 each of the last 2 years. Kevin mentioned women's lacrosse, and I'll close with that. But pretty awesome. The exposure, again, our mission is to shine the spotlight on the university, on the great research, on all the great accomplishments that go on outside of athletics. And so the national TV appearances, the regional TV appearances allow us to do that. And then we have tremendous donor support. Working with Scott, his team, we know we need to generate revenue. That is going to be absolutely essential for us moving forward. So great momentum. We are going to figure out how to thrive in this new environment. So this is our path forward. It is going to be windy. It's not going to be linear by any stretch, but we have a great idea of where we need to go. So I mentioned, number 1, make that decision to opt into the settlement. I told our staff, I said, we want to be closer to Ohio State and Michigan than those who are going to be at the lower end of Division I. We're not going to be them. We're still going to be the best version of Stony Brook, but we need to act and operate at the highest level of Division I. And then we are beginning to distribute what we are calling excellence awards. So if you hear that term, and I want to be very transparent about this, this is going to be our way of compensating a select number of student athletes. We don't have revenue to share. We do generate revenue, but as Jed can attest, we don't have it to share. So we have to generate dollars through fundraising, through playing games, particularly in football and basketball, where we get paid, that then we can help to distribute some money to student athletes. This is the world we live in. Our best player on our men's basketball team this past year is transferring to a school in our own conference, essentially because we got outbid for his services. And we made a pretty strong offer to him. That's just the reality. So if we don't compete here and provide some compensation to a very specific number of athletes, we will fall behind. It's going to be done responsibly. It's going to be done with intention. But I do believe this is going to be done in a way that's going to allow us to compete and thrive. So when you hear excellence awards, that's what we're terming it. Again, working with Scott and his team, Jackie and her team to be able to do this.
Who did we lose?
CJ Lester. CJ Lester. And we made a presentation. We're talking to, these athletes all have agents now, so we're talking to agents. It's unlike anything. This is why schools are hiring GMs. But I'm basically going to be the GM, because this is something we have to take great stock in and be very deliberate in how we do this. So
Sean,
CJ is going to Wilmington.
Where is CJ going?
He's going to UNC Wilmington. So within our conference, College of Charleston and UNC Wilmington they're like the Dodgers and the Yankees in terms of the resources that they have. And so we're going to try to compete and find other ways to gain an edge, because it's not only about money. But we will compete against CJ, and we've lost a student athlete each of the last 4 years to a 6-figure deal. Just the nature of the beast. So we're going to bring bring some great new athletes in. We've got a great strategy, and I expect us to really compete. So, new strategy for student athlete scholarships. As I mentioned before, gone are men's soccer, for example. Again, trying to make sense of this. Their scholarship limit was 9.9. So they would divide up 9.9 scholarships among a team of 30. Men's lacrosse, 12.8. So now, men's lacrosse, for example, their roster limit is 48. So essentially, you could give 48 full scholarships. We obviously are not doing that, but we're going to look very hard at how we maximize the dollars that we do have to remain very competitive. But also, it's going to be a different model. It's going to be done like a professional sports model, where we have a salary cap for each team, and we'll sit with each coach. We'll figure out how to best utilize those dollars. Again, this is it might seem broad, but continue to work closely, again, with groups like this to demonstrate our value to campus. I know there is tremendous support for athletics, but as we go into this time, we need to work even closer with our campus partners. We need to share our story. We need to be an incredible storyteller, as we've mentioned, not just for athletics, but for our university, and show that value and show what we bring. Because as we go forward, there will be those who are saying, why are we paying student athletes? Why are we doing this? There are other students on this campus who are working hard and bringing prestige to the university. I understand that. But this is how we maintain relevance in Division I, and we're going to do that. But we've got to work closely and be great partners. We've got to operationalize a new business model. In this new world, same old, status quo will not get the job done. So what positions do we need? What positions don't we need in this new environment? How do we, again, lock in with the new financial model that's coming into place? We need to be great at that. So that's managing expenses, it's generating revenue. And that's going to be really, really important in a new business model. And then we're working on a preliminary stages of a new strategic plan for athletics that will really help set the vision for what we're trying to do moving forward. And I look forward to working with a lot of you on what that looks like. But this is an exciting time. For me, this is how do we figure this out? It's evolving. There are a lot of people who are tapping out of college athletics because this isn't what they signed up for. To me, it's still about student athletes. It's still about impacting the lives of young people. And it's still about shining the spotlight of our great university. And I look forward to doing that moving forward. And just to close, and I know this was a bit of a quick hit, our women's lacrosse team. And this is something that I have told our staff time and again, we cannot take this incredible program for granted. So as mentioned, Saturday afternoon, our women's lacrosse team won its 12th consecutive conference championship. And thank you, Fred. And it's remarkable. Last night, we learned we're going to play Loyola Maryland in the first round of the tournament on Friday. But what this team has done and the way they represent our university, again, strong women achieving incredible things with the behemoths of Division I. So it can be done, and it will be done. What Joe Spallina, our head coach, has done is nothing short of remarkable. As he says, tradition doesn't graduate. Entirely new team, same expectations. They have won 89 straight conference games. 89 straight. I started here in 2014. I have yet to witness a conference loss for women's lacrosse. That doesn't happen. It's the longest streak in the country of any sport. And so when we bemoan, college athletics, it's all about money, these women compete for their school, for Long Island, for one another, and it is tremendous. But what they do against the North Carolinas, the Marylands, the very top programs in the country. So we can figure out a path forward. We've got a lot to celebrate, and it is going to be interesting, and we're learning every day. The rules will continue to change, but as the House settlement comes in, I do think we have to figure out how we lead and set the standard for schools at our level and thrive and win in this environment. So I appreciate the time. Again, much more to come on this, but I'm grateful for the chance to come and speak to you today.
Sean, the top programs in women's lacrosse, are they paying their athletes too? And do we run the risk of having our amazing team, some of our stars get stolen or lured away for money?
It's a great question. So the answer is yes. So women's lacrosse, because my daughter is Larry knows, going with his daughter playing lacrosse, the roster limit for women's lacrosse is 38. So what schools at the higher level, what they're doing is they're giving full scholarship to all 38. So they will 100% be able to offer more money. And so we just have to continue to be great at finding those players who can be developed. And that's what Joe has done an amazing job of. But it is a real concern, Kevin. And it's one of those things that we're going to have to invest a little bit more. So when I talk about using our scholarship pot for women's lacrosse, we need to invest a little more in that pot to be able to maintain that relevance. We won't be at 38 full scholarships, but we will be competing against schools that are. And that is a concern.
And do most of our, both men and women, sports, football, basketball, soccer, do we give them full scholarships, to play for our team, or not, to the limit, or do they get partials, and do some get none?
Yeah, so football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, tennis, there are a handful of what has been known as head count sports, meaning football at the FCS level is 63 full scholarships. So we do give all 63. Women's basketball has been 15, men's basketball 13. So those are all full scholarships. The sports like women's lacrosse, soccer, which is a smaller, baseball, it's a smaller number, so athletes have gotten a percentage. Rarely will you have students who are on fulls, but they do exist. And then we have walk-ons. The risk we run with the roster limits are the walk-ons, who are some of the greatest stories that we have. They come, they're non-scholarship athletes, they work hard. Those are at risk of losing spots because of roster limits. And you just can't keep athletes on if they're not going to be contributors. So but that's also why Judge Wilkin asked the attorneys to go back and look at the roster limits, because it does take opportunities away from athletes. And again, today's walk-on can become tomorrow's superstar. But that's what we're trying to figure out, Kevin, is how do we maximize the dollars that we have, bring athletes here who are going to contribute, and then if they go on to larger schools for more money, so be it.
Can do it. Yeah, I participated in a call. I think your office and Scott's office did it with Gino Ford, our basketball coach.
Yes.
And he said something I just found amazing. He said the average salary that the Big Ten pays their basketball players is $500,000 a year, which means many of them are making over $1 million a year.
Yes.
And they're students. It just blew me away. And how do we compete with something like that? We don't. We got to compete in our own way. But unless we get like the guy who's at St. John's giving Rick Pitino hundreds of millions of dollars to go build, an amazing team, we got to do it the way you just described.
That's right. And we will figure it out.
Good.
I have a 5th year of eligibility now, so.
Come on.
I'm in.
We need a kicker. That's good.
I can still do about 40 yards.
That's right. We need a good kicker. Always need a good kicker.
40 yards is not enough now. These kickers today kick them 60 yards.
I don't know. I've seen some of these guys miss 40 yarders. I didn't miss any when I was young.
Don't forget about Chris.
I know.
Any other questions for Sean? All right.
Thank you.
Sean, this was a great presentation. Thanks so much and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So that wraps up our official agenda for the meeting. Does any council member have any other matter they'd like to raise?
Yeah, just quickly. I don't think, I've been in a lot of council meetings over the years, and the challenges that have been presented today and that we know of for our future have never been higher. But what I do see and what I do hear is a lot of enthusiasm, commitment, and dedication in this room. And it's amazing that, the level that it's at. And I'm very proud of that. And I know we're going to be able to overcome these challenges and win at what's going on, both locally, nationally, and internally. And so I thank the staff for the commitment, the executive staff, and everybody behind you, because it is so obvious that we have the team to win the wars that are out there, and I thank you.
Great, well said, Frank.
I think you were right that higher education will prevail.
Yes.
It's going to be a tough few years, but the higher education institutions, especially ones like ours, public research universities, are so essential to America, so essential to everything that goes on here. We're going to be hit with some things, but if we respond well, we will prevail.
Yeah, and with the right team, we can do it.
Good.
One other quick thing. I had the honor recently of being the Grand Marshal for the Belport's St. Patty's Day Parade. So an Italian and an Irish parade. But it came together nicely. But I want to thank Carl and Kevin and Jackie and Andrea in your office because Wolfie made its way over to the South Shore. And Wolfie is not really known on the South Shore and had a huge impact in this parade, both with the fire departments that were there and the youth that were marching. And he did a great job, and I thank you.
Wolfie is such an asset.
Yeah, very good, Frank. Commencement is coming up May 23rd for council members who can make it. We understand that Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty
He
is
our
going to be
speaker.
there.
Yep, happy to say, second year in a row.
Which is
and we'll have all of our local elected officials will be there as well.
And is he the honorary speaker as well, or do we have another speaker?
No, he is the main speaker.
He's the main speaker. Good. So that'll be exciting. Our next meeting is undetermined at this point. It'll probably be like the first week of October, but Rachel will let you know. And if Adam tells us, we may have to meet virtually in August, like we've done the past 4 years in a row.
We should be okay this year.
We should be okay, but remember to update the student code of conduct before the kids get here. We may have to do that, but if we don't, of course, that's great. And Mr. Again, I want to thank you for your service here. And you'll graduate, and then you are going to med school in September. That's so exciting. You make us proud. So best of luck to you. Dick, best of luck, and we'll be seeing you over the next few months. But thanks again also for a great report.
Thank you.
And Andrea, I'll let you have the last word before we adjourn.
I just want to echo the optimism that was expressed in these final remarks about the future of higher education. It has been such a driver of upward mobility and economic growth and strength and security and innovation within this country. And I firmly believe that whatever the short-term challenges are, those forces will prevail to make higher education even stronger as we emerge from this period. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, I think it's an opportunity for Stony Brook at a time of uncertainty and disruption to take our strengths and partnership and supporters and goals and emerge as one of the best universities at this time of disruption. So I'm very optimistic about that. I'll just reiterate in closing my thanks to everybody on this council for supporting my choice as president, which is very important to me, but also for all of your time and effort and wisdom that you have conveyed through the council to support our goals. I want to thank Kevin as well for his leadership and support and help during the transition. And my last words are for Dick. Thank you for leaving Stony Brook in such an amazing place, for all you've done, for avoiding the Mai Tais on the beach for the past year in order to really ensure that we go through this transition period with strength and optimism and many exciting plans for the future. And I can't wait to be at the next meeting in person, work with all of you in person. If you have any questions or suggestions, please reach out to me. I have my Stony Brook email address, andrea.goldsmith@stonybrook.edu. So look forward to hearing from you anytime throughout the transition, and certainly working with you closely after I begin the role formally in August. So thanks everyone for your time and energy and enthusiasm and optimism.
Great, thank you. All right, so we are adjourned. See you at commencement, and if we don't see you, enjoy, have a nice summer.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll see you sometime soon. We'll do one of our meetings.